just reported in the last 48 hours. We know that he continues to do business with China because he's got a secret Chinese bank account. How is that possible? How is that possible? A secret Chinese bank account. Listen, can you imagine if I had a secret Chinese bank account when I was running for re-election? You think Fox News might have been a little concerned about that? They would have called me Beijing Barry.
When I saw this blockbuster headline, Trump owes tens of millions of dollars to the Bank of China and the loan is due soon, it was so explosive that media after media copied the Politico story with headlines like, Trump is personally indebted to China's state-run bank. Wow, what a huge conflict of interest for the president to owe money to a Chinese state-run bank.
According to the Times, Donald Trump has an undisclosed Chinese bank account. Isn't that something?
The bank account was in 2013. That's what it was. It was opened it was closed in 2015.
Now that we found out he's a longtime Chinese taxpayer, Trump has every right to be furious about China's response to the coronavirus. He's practically a citizen of their country.
Had an account open, and I closed it.
Okay.
Excuse me. And then, unlike him, where he's vice president and he does business, I then decided to run for president after that. That was before. So I closed it before I even ran for president, let alone became president. Big difference. He is the vice president of the United States, and his son, his brother, and his other brother are getting rich. They're like a vacuum cleaner. They're sucking up money every
President Trump,
place he
thank you.
goes.
We do need to move on.
According to the Times tonight, President Trump has a previously undisclosed bank account in China. The Trump business entity that holds that secret Chinese bank account is called Trump International Hotels Management. That entity, in turn, owns something called THC China Development. It's a Trump company with a Chinese bank account.
The article implies that the Chinese government has financial leverage over Trump, and that Trump is a hypocrite for claiming that Biden would be a gift to the communist country and America's chief economic rival.
Remember when he was trying to run against, like, Beijing Biden? Remember that minute? He was trying to run against Biden as somehow being soft on China? And the Times tonight is reporting that President Trump took nearly $25 million cash from sources linked to China and the Chinese government, including a previously secret Chinese bank account, just in the first year he was in office as president.
Trump owes millions to Bank of China for building loan, reports show. But it isn't true. Shortly after this news circled the earth, the Bank of China issued a statement saying it had held that Trump loan only for 22 days before selling it to a U.S. real estate firm in 2012. In other words, tens of millions of dollars that Trump supposedly owed China, due soon, was actually owed for only 3 weeks back in 2012, 8 years before. Obviously, these facts negate the whole idea behind the story, but the media are not about to admit that they made a mistake.
U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi on Wednesday said President Donald Trump's reported bank account in China raises serious national security concerns. This after a New York Times report revealed the previously undisclosed account. The top Democrat in the House of Representatives cited the Chinese government's ties to its financial industry and said Trump's banking there opened him up to vulnerabilities.
The Times reporting showing what we knew about the president, that he was, business-wise, he was presenting a fraudulent picture of who he was, but a president who was also in a very risky situation, as you're pointing out.
Politico simply changes its headline, Trump owes, to Trump owed China, past tense. They and the other media pretend the false information they'd published had little bearing on the actual news. Politico could have avoided the error if it hadn't failed to follow a basic rule that's taught to every 19 and 20-year-old journalism student. Contact the people you're talking about in a story before you publish.
Now we find out Trump has a secret bank account in China. Well, hi, guess what? He's paid 50 times more in taxes in Beijing than he's paid in America. That's a fact.
You see, the Trump Organization owned a 30% stake in a building in Manhattan, 1290 Avenue of the Americas.
That's a fact.
Back in 2012, Bank of China was part of a group of banks that gave the building a commercial loan. Bank of China's share was more than $200 million. The loan is due in 2022. Case closed, right? It turns out, no. Within a month after Bank of China financed the loan, they repackaged their loan as commercial mortgage-backed securities, and they resold those on the securities market. This is a common thing that happens in the financial industry. What that means is the Bank of China hasn't owned any part of that loan since 2012.
Does this New York Times reporting have the ability to surprise even you in some of the details?
Well, I think what is surprising is the extent of his debt. We knew he had debt. We didn't know exactly the dollar amount.
There's hundreds of millions of dollars in debt. Over $400 million due in the next few years. Who's he owe it to? Where's it coming from?
As we see in this story, his ties to other countries, the president taking more in income from these foreign countries, from deals that his companies have abroad, than from his own government.
So how did Politico respond to their recent article being not true? They quietly changed the article headline from "Trump owes tens of millions of dollars to the Bank of China and the loan is due soon" to the much less newsworthy "Trump owed tens of millions to Bank of China."
Of the three reporters bylined in the article, Mark Caputo, Meredith McGraw, and Anita Kumar, none apparently thought to contact the Bank of China before publishing the story. Had they done their job, they likely would have learned prior to publication, as they were supposed to, that there was no current loan to Trump from China, thus avoiding their major flub.
It is not a great idea to have a president who owes a bunch of money to people overseas.
Of course, Donald Trump has a Chinese bank account. He had to. He's running out of things to be hypocritical about. It was the only thing left.
They didn't outright fess up to the mistake until 3 days later, after a lot of public backlash. That's when they finally printed this article saying, "Hey, my bad." It turns out that their main mistake was not asking the Bank of China for a statement before publishing the article. Oops.
Did I mention it's 2 weeks until the election? 2 weeks until we decide as a country whether we will change course or keep this president in place for another 4 years.
That's a fact.